I got a job in a city I had never visited before. It wasn't something I planned for a long time, it just happened quickly, almost too quickly. I applied online, got a reply the next day, and within a week I was already traveling there. The building I was assigned to work at was massive, far taller than anything I had ever seen in real life. It stood alone between older structures, almost like it didn't belong in the city at all. The moment I saw it from outside, I felt something strange in my chest, like a silent warning I couldn't understand. The security guard at the entrance barely spoke to me. He just looked at me for a few seconds and then opened the gate without saying a word. Inside, the lobby was clean, too clean, almost artificial. There were no people rushing, no noise, only a strange echo that followed every step I took. I was given a badge, a key, and a set of instructions. The only thing the receptionist said to me before I left the desk was very simple, but I didn't understand its importance at the time. She said, "Don't stay out after midnight." I laughed a little, thinking it was just a joke meant for new workers. I was taken to my assigned security station on one of the lower floors. The elevator ride was smooth, almost too smooth, like it wasn't moving through a normal building. The walls of the elevator had no mirrors, no reflection, just plain metal that made it feel more like a sealed box than a transport system. The guard who brought me there didn't speak during the entire ride. When we reached the floor, he simply nodded and left without explanation. The hallway outside the elevator was long and empty, with doors lined perfectly on both sides. There were cameras in every corner, all blinking red quietly. My job was simple: monitor the cameras, log activity, and report anything unusual. Everything seemed normal at first, almost boring. I sat in the security room alone, watching multiple screens showing different parts of the building. People were moving, elevators were working, and everything looked stable. But something about the atmosphere felt slightly off, like the building itself was holding its breath. I ignored it and focused on my job, telling myself I was just tired from traveling. Everything changed at exactly midnight. The entire building went silent at the same time. Not slowly, not gradually, instantly. Conversations stopped, elevators froze, and even the small background noises disappeared completely. I looked at the security screens and noticed something strange. Every camera feed was still working, except one. Camera 07 was showing something that didn't match the building layout. It displayed a hallway that didn't exist in the blueprints. At the end of that hallway was an elevator door labeled 0. I leaned closer to the screen, confused, because the building clearly started from floor 1. There was no such thing as floor 0 in the system. I checked the database, but there was no record of it. Yet the camera feed was real, clear, and stable. I called the control room, but there was no response. The communication system had gone completely silent. That was the first moment I realized something was wrong. I kept watching the camera feed, unable to look away. The hallway looked too real to be fake, too detailed to be an error. Then I noticed something even worse. A person was standing at the end of the hallway. They weren't moving. They were just standing in front of the elevator labeled 0, staring directly at the camera. My body froze when I realized something even more disturbing. The person on the screen looked exactly like me. I blinked repeatedly, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But every time I looked back, the figure was still there. The lights in the security room flickered slightly, making the screens distort for a split second. When they stabilized, the figure on the camera had moved closer. It was now walking toward the camera slowly, step by step. My heartbeat started increasing. I tried calling for backup again, but the phone line was dead. I was completely alone. I stood up from my chair, trying to understand what I was seeing. The hallway on the screen didn't match anything in the building I was physically in. I grabbed the floor map from the desk and checked it again carefully. Floors 1 to 10 were clearly listed. No floor 0. No hidden hallway. No secret elevator. But the camera feed continued showing it without interruption. The figure on the screen had now stopped moving. It was standing very close to the camera, almost as if it was aware it was being watched. Then suddenly, the figure tilted its head slightly. That small movement made my stomach drop. It felt intentional. Like it was reacting to me specifically. The security room lights flickered again, longer this time. When they came back, the environment felt different. The hum of machines was gone. Even the air felt heavier. The voice system above the cameras crackled suddenly. A sound came through it, but it wasn't static. It sounded like breathing. Slow, controlled breathing, as if someone was standing right behind the speaker. Then a voice followed, low and distorted, but strangely familiar. It said, "You are watching it now." My hands started shaking. I looked around the room instinctively, but there was no one there. Only me and the screens. The voice continued, "You always end up here." I stepped back from the monitors, trying to process what was happening. The screens began to glitch slightly, showing flashes of the hallway, the elevator, and the number 0 repeatedly. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was hallucinating from exhaustion, but the images didn't stop. They became more stable instead. The figure in the hallway was now gone from the screen. In its place, the elevator doors labeled 0 slowly opened by themselves. A dark void was visible inside. No light. No reflection. Just emptiness. Then the voice returned again, closer this time. "You shouldn't be here alone." A loud mechanical sound came from somewhere in the building. I rushed to the security room door and tried opening it, but it wouldn't budge. It felt locked from the outside. The cameras all switched at once to the same view, floor 0 hallway. And this time, I wasn't watching it from the security room. I was inside it. I could feel it. The angle was different. It felt like I was standing in both places at once. My vision blurred for a second, and when it cleared, I was no longer sitting in the chair. I was standing in the hallway shown on the screen. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions. The lighting was dim and unstable. The elevator labeled 0 stood in front of me, its doors slightly open. I felt like I had no control over my body anymore, like something was guiding me forward. I tried to step back, but my legs didn't respond properly. The voice returned, now echoing directly inside my head instead of through speakers. "You always open the door." I forced myself to look away from the elevator, but the hallway kept changing every time I blinked. Doors would appear and disappear. The number 0 kept flashing on different surfaces. It felt like reality itself was unstable here. I realized something terrifying. I couldn't remember how I got into the hallway. The last clear memory I had was sitting in the security room. But now that memory felt distant, like it belonged to someone else, the elevator doors opened wider. A cold wind came from inside, even though we were indoors. I heard footsteps behind me, but when I turned, there was nothing. The voice whispered again, "You've done this before." My mind started filling with images I had never experienced consciously. Me standing here. Me pressing the button. Me entering the elevator. Over and over again, I realized I wasn't in a normal building anymore. This place didn't function like a building at all. It functioned like a loop. A system. A trap. Every person who entered it became part of it. The security room. The hallway. The elevator. They weren't locations. They were stages of the same cycle. My reflection appeared on a glass surface beside the elevator. But it didn't match me. It was smiling while I was terrified. It raised its hand slowly, even though I wasn't moving. Then it spoke again, "You're almost done." The elevator doors closed behind me without sound. The hallway disappeared. Everything turned black for a moment. Then the lights returned, and I was back in the security room. Sitting in the chair. Watching the screens. But something was wrong. There was a new guard standing outside the room, looking inside. He smiled at me and entered. The moment he sat down, I understood everything. I wasn't the new guard anymore. I was the previous one. The cycle had already replaced me. And somewhere deep in the system, floor 0 was waiting for the next person.